From 18 to 28. I was with Bruno for 10 years. The night before our wedding, he said he was tired of me and turned to hold hands with a younger girl. He thought I'd chase after him like a dog, begging him not to abandon me. But I didn't. I didn't cry. I didn't make a scene. I called off the engagement, burned the wedding dress, and threw away the ring. Bruno even bet with his friends that I'd come crawling back soon to stay by his side. Until news of my wedding reached him. Bruno went insane. For the first time. He contacted me. For the first time. He cried. For the first time. He got down on his knees and begged me. But I was already holding another man's hand. Thank you for not marrying me. From the three of us, my whole family, we thank you. Chapter 1. Our 10th anniversary was also my 28th birthday. I wanted to get married. I wanted to walk into the next chapter of life hand in hand with the one I loved. So I took the initiative, custom ordered the engagement ring, prepared the wedding dress. I thought, why can't a woman propose too? I chose this special day, full of excitement, to surprise him. When I got to the door of the private room, Bruno's mocking, dismissive voice came clearly through the gap. Zoe? That old hag? What's so great about her? Do I not know it's her birthday today? Do I not know it's our anniversary? I know better than anyone. I just don't want to see her. Inside, the room was filled with laughter. They were drinking, celebrating, singing like nothing mattered. True, Zoe is pretty, but man, you've got so many options now. What about that little girl Laura? Still seeing her? Bruno might have lit a cigarette just then. He went silent for a moment. She's still around. Compared to Zoe, she's way more fun. I'm not ready to let her go. Damn, bro. That's wild. But Zoe's been with you for 10 years. What if she finds out one day? What will you do then? Bruno replied casually. Nothing. It's not like I ever planned to marry her anyway. Another wave of laughter and flattery followed. My heart felt like it had fallen into an ice-cold abyss. I wiped the tears from the corner of my eyes and turned to leave that surprising place. Right at the door, I brushed past Laura walking in. She was dressed up to the nines, youthful and radiant. That night, the rain poured down. I stood in the storm and cried my heart out. And finally, I woke up. If someone doesn't love you, even 10 more years won't change anything. I stopped clinging to Bruno. Just a few days later, he openly flaunted Laura. Everyone said they were a perfect match. He was mature and charming. She was young and sweet. That's Bruno for you. The difference between who he loves and who he doesn't is stark. All the things he now did for Laura, he had never once done for me. He placed Laura high on a pedestal. An apartment, a car, diamonds, he gifted them without blinking. In our circle, their relationship was basically accepted as official. A few friends who still spoke up for me questioned him in our private group chat. Bruno, seriously? Cheating and being this public about it? Do you even care about Zoe at all? They said he was heartless and deserved to choke on a needle. Bruno got annoyed and snapped back. Fine. You all want me to give Zoe an explanation, right? I'll do it. But all you who keep talking shit about Laura behind her back, watch yourselves. I will come after you. And so, on the night my friends were trying to make up for the birthday Bruno ruined, he barged into the gathering with Laura in his arms. I hadn't even cut my cake when everyone's eyes shifted toward them. Bruno saw me smiling brightly at my friends and froze for a second. But even so, he still humiliated me in front of everyone. He held Laura tightly, exhaling with a smirk. Zoe, I came here to be clear with you. I paused, knife in hand, then calmly sat back down and looked at him flatly. I know, Bruno. It's been 10 years. You got tired. You fell for a new, pretty flower. So you want to leave me, isn't that right? Chapter 2. On the surface, I sounded calm and indifferent, as if I had never truly loved Bruno. But no one saw how my nails had already dug into my palms. Bruno froze for a moment, surprised by how composed I was. And confused, why wasn't I clinging to the 10 years I had given him? He seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. Well, since you already know, then let's just end it. I agree, I nodded, my gaze shifting to Laura in his arms. So young. Bruno stiffened. He had expected me to lash out at Laura with accusations. But I didn't. His expression shifted, a trace of surprise flickering in his eyes. Then he said, as if making a solemn promise, "We'll still be friends, okay? If you ever need anything at all, I'll be there for you." I gave a faint smile and stood up to leave. No need. Bruno, every relationship deserves 100% loyalty and exclusivity. If you couldn't do that for me, you should at least manage it with someone else. I didn't feel like eating cake anymore. I simply gathered my friends and left. As I walked away, I could hear the whispers behind me. Dude, that was too much. Zoe, she didn't do anything wrong. Even the people who had once sided with Bruno, mocked me along with him, couldn't help but feel sorry for me. Only Bruno's voice carried a note of frustration and denial. What are you all whining about? Zoe's been clinging to me for 10 years. She won't leave. I know her too well. Wanna bet? His friends called him a bastard. And he took it all in stride. She'll come back within a month. Honestly, I wish she'd just disappear for good. But let's be real, everyone knows she's head over heels for me. Then came Laura's soft, aggrieved voice. If she comes back, what about me? Bruno pinched her cheek with a smirk. You're my precious little baby, but you'd better behave. Otherwise, I'll make you disappear too. I walked away in high heels. Not looking back, just let out a bitter laugh. A mocking one, and then a helpless one. The night before I moved out of Bruno's house, the wedding dress I had designed finally arrived. Back then, I had drawn the design myself. It combined all of Bruno's favorite elements, and I had looked forward to it for more than half a year. But now, looking at it, it was hideous. I cut the dress into pieces and burned it along with our photos. The ring? I threw it away. This place belonged to Bruno. God knows how hard it was for me to hold myself back from setting the whole house on fire. I moved into a hotel and gave my professor a call. She thought I was still going to reject the chance to study abroad, and immediately blew up at me. Do you even understand what an opportunity this is? You get to go abroad, improve your skills, boost your career, and you're throwing it all away? Zoe, you've become someone else for the sake of some shitty love story. I stayed silent, listening to her rant while quietly smiling. My face was soaked with tears. Only after she was out of breath did I speak up. Chapter 3. Professor, I've already submitted my application to Milan. Stop yelling. My love-struck brain got yelled right out of me. My professor was relieved to hear I finally made the right choice. But that only made her scold me more. If I'd known one good scolding would snap you out of it, I'd have done it ages ago. I agreed to everything she said, coaxing the old lady until she finally calmed down. A few days later, I boarded a plane to Milan. After arriving, I hit it off with another one of my professor's students. We studied design together and joked about our teacher's constant nagging. Time passed quickly. I left everything back home behind. Nothing from there could reach me here. Life abroad was busy and fulfilling, and little by little, I was healing. At Christmas, a friend organized a small gathering, mostly made up of old Chinese acquaintances. But when I arrived, only a handful of people were there. My friend explained, "This is all I could manage to invite. The big shots are all too busy. We're not anyone special, naturally. They didn't bother to come." After a few drinks, I was ready to sneak out early. But just then, the bell above the door jingled. A tall figure stepped into Romeo, his shoulders dusted with snow. Everyone in the room lit up. Romeo was a celebrity-level figure in our field, same age as me. But he had skipped several grades and was now already a professor. Famous for being strict, cold, and distant, he never took on students, no matter how hard people begged. And yet, despite his aloof nature, he was deeply admired and even idolized. "Professor, what brings you here?" Romeo was still the same, cool and elegant. He merely gave a polite nod to the others. Then, he walked straight up to me, and for once, he actually smiled. "Long time no see, Zoe." He wore a gray-brown coat, a black scarf around his neck, gloves on his hands, meticulously dressed as always. But snowflakes had melted into his hair, and warm droplets now slid down from the edge of his lashes. Still just as handsome as ever. But tonight, He carried something indescribably different. Long time no see, I replied. My friend's jaw practically dropped upon witnessing our interaction. You know Professor Romeo? I smiled. An old acquaintance. An old acquaintance. Romeo echoed with a gentlemanly smile. He looked at me. Are you leaving already? I nodded, pointing at my slightly flushed cheeks. Yeah, I had a bit too much to drink. I'll walk you home. My friend tugged at my sleeve, giving me a knowing look and an anti-style smirk. I looked at Romeo and nodded. It wasn't until I followed him outside that it suddenly dawned on me. Could Romeo have come tonight, just for me? Outside, I noticed he had brought an umbrella. If you brought an umbrella, why are your shoulders and hair still wet? Romeo tilted the umbrella more toward my side. The wind was strong. Holding it properly was hard, slowed me down. So what if it slowed you down? Romeo paused, turning his deep gaze on me. Zoe, I missed my chance when I was 18. And after that, I waited 10 years. My heart trembled. Romeo walked me back to my apartment. At the building entrance, he handed me the umbrella. It's not like back home. The weather here changes all the time. Better to be prepared. I smiled and thanked him, but didn't take the umbrella. Romeo, come upstairs with me. It's still early, maybe. Stay for a cup of tea? Romeo froze for a moment, but instead of replying, he quietly unbuckled his seatbelt. After getting out of the car, I remained on the side of the umbrella that tilted toward me, and in that moment, I felt a little dazed. I thought back to the night of my 28th birthday. It had rained so hard, and I hadn't even brought an umbrella. I had to walk home soaked and alone. But now, even when there was no rain, just soft, slow, beautiful snow, someone held an umbrella for me. Chapter 4. Thanks for walking me home today. Romeo looked at me, the corners of his lips lifting slightly. You're welcome. After all, I came tonight because of you. I smiled, and we went upstairs together. Inside the elevator, he asked, I heard you and Bruno ended things? I nodded, calmly. Yes, he started a new chapter, and as the past, it's only right I step aside. Romeo looked at me and slowly removed his glasses. What about you? Are you ready for a new beginning too? I met his eyes. Maybe it was the alcohol, but I was the one who kissed him first. When I was 18, I faced a choice. Romeo, exceptional in every way but cold and hard to get close to. Or Bruno, the underachiever with a warm smile and an easygoing nature. That year, I reached out and took Bruno's hand. It took me 10 years to solve that question, only to realize it had no answer. And now, Romeo stood in front of me again, offering me a new choice. Was it revenge? Or was it the uncertainty I still held toward the life I'd lived for the past 10 years? I wanted to know, if I had chosen Romeo back then, would the answer have still been the same? I was shameless, like a rogue. I pinned Romeo against the elevator wall and kissed him. Romeo didn't resist. He accepted it, even reached out to protect the back of my head, then took control. In that moment, all reason vanished. Desire surged. He pulled me into his arms, and I couldn't stop gasping for breath. Romeo's eyes were red at the corners, but I knew that wasn't just desire. It was years of frustration and pain. That cold, aloof man cried for me. He asked, Zoe, is this your new choice? Will you regret it? Tears fell onto the back of my hand, hot. So hot that I shivered. I'd never seen a man cry before. Stunned, I lifted my hand and wiped away his tears. I'm sorry to say it this way, Romeo, but no, I don't regret it. I just want to know, if I had chosen you, could I have one, just once? I'm 28. Maybe it's too late to fall in love with you, but I still want to try. Romeo suddenly smiled. He lowered his head and buried his face in the crook of my neck. Then don't regret it, Zoe. Don't regret it for the rest of your life. And so, we had one reckless night. From kisses in the elevator to the floor of my apartment, our clothes trailed behind us. From the sofa to the balcony, the Milan moon wasn't full, nor was it particularly bright. But Romeo said, my tears were bright enough. He said he had held it in for over 10 years, And honestly, I believed him. That night, between the sheets, for the first time, I used the word beast to describe a man. Are you trying to kill me? Romeo looked aggrieved. I couldn't help it, because to me, you still look like you did at 18. The alcohol had long since faded into our kisses. When it was all over, Romeo carried me in his arms to wash up. In the bathtub, he held me from behind, gently biting my shoulder. Zoe, tell me that you won't turn back, that you won't leave me. Romeo was so starved for love. His love had always been one-sided, hopeless. Now that we had slept together, all he wanted was a promise, a little reassurance. Through the steam and mist, I kissed him. I won't turn back. Romeo, we're not that young anymore. Let's give this a try. My heart feels empty, so let me try filling it with you. Completely. Would that be okay? Romeo didn't say anything, but his breath on my shoulder was burning hot. For a long while, he just held me like that. Then finally, he murmured, "You were the one who messed with me first. You better mean what you said." I've got no emotional intelligence. I always piss people off, but usually, I don't care. But you, Zoe, I care about you. Please fall in love with me. Let's take care of each other from now on. I couldn't help but laugh. Then kissed him again. Chapter 5. Later, a friend from back home called me. At that moment, Romeo was explaining to me why the flowers on the balcony had died. This supposedly genius designer was watering plants with shaking hands. I didn't know plants could drown. I just gave them more water. I burst out laughing, exasperated but amused. And in the past month, I'd come to see his adorable side more and more. With a sigh, I grabbed his hand. These hands, they're meant for drafting, not gardening. I've got a new collection launching next month. Why don't you help me review the designs instead? Just spare my poor flowers, all right? Romeo pursed his lips, then gave a small nod, agreement. He stole another kiss, carefully checking to see if I was still mad. It was him who picked up my phone. It's a call from home. He looked a little nervous. I took it calmly. Zoe, you've been abroad for a whole month without even telling us? That's not very friendly. I stayed quiet, waiting to hear what he'd say next. He was one of Bruno's party animal buddies. Definitely not someone worth keeping in touch with. After a moment, he cleared his throat awkwardly. So, when are you coming back? Everyone's been talking about you. Life abroad must be tough, right? If you ask me, it's better to come home and build your career here. I cut him off, my tone cool, polite but distant. I don't plan on coming back anytime soon. Where I build my career is my choice. What is it you're really trying to say? On the other end, it sounded like someone snatched the phone away, followed by a burst of static, and then the line went dead. Speechless, I set the phone aside and leaned into Romeo's arms. What are you worrying about? Your eyebrows are practically tied in a knot. Romeo shook his head but hugged me tighter. Meanwhile, inside a private lounge, Bruno smashed his friend's phone against the table. Dude, Zoe's not even your girlfriend. Why are you breaking my phone? Bruno ignored the protest completely, stood up, and threw a whole tray of glasses to the floor. His friend, watching his phone lie in pieces, was clearly annoyed. Weren't you the one who said Zoe would never leave you? Now what? She moved on and you can't handle it? Bruno exploded. Can't handle it? Go fuck yourself. She can come back or not. I don't give a damn. What, she thinks this will guilt me into marrying her? His friend raised an eyebrow. Clearly, Bruno was the only one still living in denial. Well, not his wife that ran off. So he had time to spare. I came home and saw all our photos were gone. She fucking burned everything. All of it. She thinks pulling this stunt will make me regret it. Not a chance. I dumped her. I should be happy. Watching Bruno lose his mind, his friend rolled his eyes again and reluctantly leaned in to comfort him. All right, be happy. Then, and if you're really happy, quit drinking. If your stomach problems come back, no one's going to fetch your meds for you. That little mistress of yours, Laura? You should be grateful if she doesn't kill you while you're sick. Bruno's face darkened. He slammed the door and stormed out. Only after stepping outside did he realize it was pouring rain, and he hadn't brought an umbrella. He'd just come out to drink, didn't even drive, and now he was stuck. He should have called someone to pick him up, but that so-called group of friends? Not one of them could be counted on. If Zoe were still around, the thought made Bruno's chest ache, but he refused to see it as anything complex. He told himself it was just how much he hated Zoe. 28 and still playing hard to get? It had been 3 months. She left the country behind his back. Not even a text, let alone a phone call. Fine, if you want to play games. I'll play with you to the end. Let's see who loses control first. His hand had almost dialed her number by reflex, but he pulled back at the last second. He stared at her contact info. Zoe had already blocked him on WeChat and by phone. Bruno, out of pure spite, blocked her back. Fine, Zoe, let's see how far you get with your new attitude. Just don't come crawling back in tears, because even if you kneel down and beg me to marry you, I won't even look at you. Chapter 6. Back in Milan, I was busier than ever, running around non-stop. I had poured my heart and soul into my new fashion collection. Romeo noticed every bit of it. Maybe he took one of my teasing remarks too seriously, but he really started promoting my work. He even designed a line of jewelry to match the clothing pieces in my collection. Whenever we had a spare moment, we'd sit across from each other by the large French windows, sketching. Time just melted away. What should we eat tonight? Every time it got close to dinner, Romeo would naturally take over kitchen duties. I never realized until reconnecting with him. Not only was he smart, he was also a surprisingly amazing cook. For someone like me, living far from home, he was an absolute gem, indispensable, something simple and homemade. Romeo looked at me and nodded. Should I go prep the ingredients? Or would you prefer to hit up that Chinese place down the street? I teased him. Does the restaurant cook better than you? Romeo shook his head proudly. Let's eat at home. I can even make you dessert afterward. Oh, and what's the tip for that, Professor? I gathered up my sketches and stood up, only to be pulled into Romeo's arms the next second. No kiss, just a gentle, quiet hug. This is the tip, he murmured. The more time I spent with Romeo, the softer my heart became. There was a time I believed Bruno would be the one, faithful to me until our hair turned gray, but reality had slapped me hard. The things I had chased for 10 long years, the love I dreamed of in relationships, were now being offered to me freely, by the very person I missed out on when I was young. I've never claimed to be noble or pure. At 18, I chose Bruno because of a momentary flutter, because of that one heartbeat. But this time, this choice wasn't driven by heart-pounding feelings or the rush of being pursued. At 28, I knew exactly what I wanted. I wanted to be someone's first choice. I wanted a career, a home, a child. So when I caught Bruno cheating, I took the time to clear out my heart, ended things within a week, and in just a few months, I let Romeo in. At first, I admit, I might have been using him to spite Bruno, using him to help piece together the life I had envisioned. But now, I love him. Sometimes, you can't control what your heart feels. That night, we paired our simple homemade dinner with a bottle of red wine. Romeo chuckled at my weird food pairing. I just clinked my glass with his. That night, we took things one step further, fully sober, fully aware, and fully ready to take responsibility for each other. What I couldn't understand was this. Why did Romeo always seem so insecure around me? I was the one who promised to love him. Yet somehow, it was always him trying to win me over. So, as we lay there, fingers interlocked, I took out a custom-made ring and slid it onto his ring finger. Romeo, I want to take responsibility for the choice I've made. Will you marry me? Proposing in bed, I might be the first woman to ever do it, especially while crying and panting at the same time. Romeo's movements, so wild just a moment ago, froze like someone had hit pause. Like me, his eyes instantly filled with mist. That look on his face was devastatingly beautiful. Of course I will. When the ring slid onto his finger, he didn't move a muscle. Our position was a little awkward. But he just kept staring down at the ring, completely still. Only after a long pause did he finally lower his head and kiss me gently. You're the one who proposed, Zoe. No takebacks. No running away from the wedding. I was overwhelmed and about to burst out laughing. Never. Just, ugh, hurry up. I kicked him lightly in the chest. And that finally snapped him out of his daze. He laughed and pulled me into his arms. I know how to make sure you don't run away, Zoe. Let's have a baby. Shotgun wedding. That way, I can marry up with our kid as backup. In the middle of everything, I turned beet red and gave him another kick. Shameless. Chapter 7. Some people rejoice, while others suffer. Even Bruno himself wasn't sure what was happening to him. He used to like Laura, yet now he was the one who had kicked her out. But day after day went by, and Zoe was silent, completely silent. It was as if she had vanished from the world. Somewhere along the way, Bruno had quietly removed her number from his block list. He kept thinking, if Zoe called again, cried a little, maybe even begged, he might soften, he might forgive her. But there was nothing. 100 days, not a word from her. Laura, unwilling to accept it, clung to him and demanded answers. I thought you liked me the most. I'm young. I'm pretty. Aren't I exactly your type? Why are you dumping me? She was just a girl fresh out of school. Maybe she had really tried to love him. But what she couldn't understand was, why? Why? Despite doing everything right, despite being more radiant, more beautiful, was she still being discarded? Bruno's answer was simple. I'm tired of you. 2 words. Final verdict. Just like when he kicked Zoe out, Bruno didn't have another woman now. Sometimes he was anxious, unsettled. He drank more often. And Laura? She understood instantly. She let out a bitter laugh as she tucked the check he gave her into her purse. Then she looked at Bruno with mocking eyes. 10 years of love and you got bored. 10 weeks of dating and you got bored. What's next? 10 days? Bruno, I honestly don't know what the hell you're even looking for. She still had some dignity. Before leaving, she spat at him. Let me tell you something. The ones you drive away, they never come back. And I'm not just talking about myself. I'm talking about that ex who stood by you for 10 years. The last time I came here to find you, I ran into her. We passed each other in the hallway. That day must have been your anniversary, right? Heard it was also her birthday? She walked away crying. That old woman. Oh, and now I remember. It was pouring that day. She was holding a little ring box when she stepped into the storm. So pathetic. Laura hadn't even finished her sentence when Bruno suddenly grabbed the wine bottle in front of him and smashed it hard on the floor. Glass and liquor exploded everywhere. The broken end slashed a long, deep cut across his forearm. The private room fell dead silent. Blood streamed down his arm, frighteningly fast. But no one dared move. Bruno glared at Laura. Get out. Only after she left did his group of so-called friends cautiously approach. What the hell's wrong with you, man? Getting all worked up over some girl and hurting yourself in the process? But Bruno didn't hear a word they said. He pulled out his phone and dialed Zoe's number. Only, he seemed to have forgotten. She still had him blocked. His already dark expression turned even nastier. He glared at one of his friends. Cursing, he barked. Call Zoe. The guy froze, terrified that his brand new phone might meet the same fate as the last one. What am I even supposed to say to her? She barely knows me. She probably hates us all after what you did. Bruno roared. Just tell her, I'm hurt. Tell her I'm fucking hurt. Ask her if she still cares. Chapter 8. Watching the scene unfold. Everyone could tell. Bruno was the first to crack. His friend had no choice. With a deep breath, he finally dialed Zoe's number. This time, the call rang for a long time before someone answered. Zoe's voice came through the speaker, calm and distant. What is it? That same aloof tone, like their first breakup. Cold, detached. Bruno suddenly fell silent. He just stared blankly at the gash on his arm. Blood kept dripping down in steady droplets, forming a small pool on the floor. His friend glanced at Bruno's pitiful state, rolled his eyes, and tried to be charming as he spoke into the phone. Zoe. Well. Bruno's not doing so great right now, could you? The line was quiet. So quiet it felt like she might have already hung up. The silence was suffocating. Zoe? Just, come see him, okay? He's really hurt. He was just released from the hospital a few days ago for a stomach issue. And now he's gone and cut up his arm. Everyone in the room waited, holding their breath. Even Bruno, though his face remained stone cold, subtly leaned in to listen. Then, a man's voice came through the phone. Zoe, let's have the wedding here, in this church, okay? In an instant, the entire room fell into a heavier silence than a funeral. Bruno froze. As if struck by lightning, he couldn't believe what he'd just heard. And then, Zoe's voice followed, calm, clear. I'm busy. Please don't call me about irrelevant things again. The second she said that, Bruno snapped. He snatched the phone and shouted into the speaker. What the fuck are you busy with? I ask you, what the fuck are you so busy doing? Getting married? Who are you marrying? Zoe! Zoe! No matter how loud he screamed, Zoe was no longer there to hear it. His friend gently reminded him. She hung up. Bruno let out a guttural growl and smashed his fist down onto the phone. Crack. The screen split. His friend flung himself to the floor to save what was left, fighting back tears, but not daring to make a sound. He felt like the biggest victim, yet didn't even dare say it aloud. She lied to me, lied to you, lied to all of us. Zoe wouldn't get married. She loves me to death. This is all a game. It's a trap. She's trying to play hard to get, again. Everyone stayed silent. After a long pause, a girl who had been sitting in the corner stood up. She shot Bruno a cold glance. I've had enough of you. Bruno, 4 years. You deserve this. You absolutely deserve it. You wasted 10 years of Zoe's life. And in the end, you just shrugged and said you were bored, and threw her out. And now you're here throwing a tantrum? Saying she loves you to death? I've known Zoe just as long as you. She has pride. For 10 years she held herself back, thinking about your past and the future you might have had together. She wanted to leave you ages ago, but she stayed because she still had hope. You drove her away. So what if she's marrying someone else now? She should. That's the least she deserves. Bruno, you're absolute trash. You don't deserve love. Zoe leaving you is the best decision she's ever made. You wanna act tough in front of us? Go home, crawl back into your house, and reflect on how pathetic you've become. With that final outburst, the girl slung her purse over her shoulder and walked out. Everyone else stood there, dumbfounded. The friend whose phone had been smashed let out a sigh and stood up as well. Bro, you need to think this through. Stop dragging the rest of us down with you. If you really can't let her go, what's so bad about apologizing? Lowering your pride? Chapter 9. But what if she never comes back? You gonna keep making us suffer with you for the rest of our lives? With that, he and a few others got up and left. Soon, Bruno was the only one left in the private room. No way. His voice trembled. For the first time, he felt the weight of Zoe's departure clearly, and that feeling was fear. He didn't know how much time had passed. Long enough for the blood from his arm to nearly dry up. Long enough for his lips to turn pale. Only then did he finally whisper in a daze, I won't let you get married. Bruno burst through the door, running as he frantically dialed Zoe's number. Meanwhile, Laura's words kept replaying in his mind, again and again. A ring? Was she going to propose to me that day? Back on Zoe's side, right after I hung up, Romeo gently hugged me from behind. Still the same habit, his head resting in the crook of my neck. Will you be mad at me? He whispered. I blinked in surprise. Mad at you for what? Romeo mumbled like a guilty child. I knew exactly who was on the other end of the call, but I still jumped in to provoke him. Do you hate me for it? Will you go back to him? Do you still feel sorry for him? A barrage of questions, He didn't give me any time to respond. His voice was full of insecurity and sadness. I waited until he quieted down, and then answered. One by one. You and I both knew who it was. We both knew exactly why he was calling. To test me. But I don't love him anymore, so I didn't feel a thing. And yes, I know you said that on purpose, and I loved it. Why would I be mad at you for doing something that satisfying? Will I go back? Of course I will, but not for him. I'm going back to launch my design exhibition in China. Speaking of that, are you coming with me? Romeo was quiet for a moment. Then he gently turned me around and kissed me. Of course I'm coming back. I'm your husband, aren't I? The wedding was supposed to be rushed, given how tightly my schedule was packed. But Romeo cleared his own work, just to take charge of the wedding planning. He insisted on handling everything personally, even taking time to design our wedding rings himself. As for me, since I majored in fashion design, I picked up the pen once again and drew a wedding dress, one based on Romeo's preferences. But he said, do it your way. You're the one becoming the bride, not me. I love you. So whatever you love, I'll love it too. I just hope that on our wedding day, you'll be wearing a dress you truly love, and a ring I designed. There was enough respect between us. So, very few arguments. Romeo loved me deeply, and I was finally learning how to love him well, too. His insecurities slowly faded. I wanted life to stay just like this. This was exactly the kind of life I had always dreamed of. We ended up deciding on 2 weddings, one in Milan, and one back home in China. In Milan, we didn't have family or teachers, so we kept it small, just a few friends and some industry professionals. Simple, but filled with love. But even then, someone still didn't want me to be happy. Groom, do you take this woman standing before you to be your lawfully wedded wife, to love and cherish her in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for as long as you both shall live? I do, to be honest. I've always thought Romeo's cold and terrifying public persona was just a fake image he maintained. Otherwise, who was this man in front of me, crying like a child during our vows? Chapter 10. I teased him, only to earn a disapproving glare from the priest. Bride, do you take this man standing before you to be your lawfully wedded husband, to love and cherish him in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for as long as you both shall live? I looked at Romeo's expectant face. I didn't answer right away. Memories of everything we'd shared flashed through my mind. Funny, isn't it? 10 years with Bruno couldn't give me love, and yet with Romeo, I'd found it in just a matter of months. I thought I wouldn't be emotional, but the moment I looked into Romeo's eyes, I teared up right along with him. Come on, sweetheart, say I do. Romeo sniffled through tears, nervously reminding me, as if afraid I'd say something inappropriate. I smiled softly. She doesn't. Before I could finish, the one person I never wanted to see again stormed into the ceremony. Bruno. He looked nothing like the man he used to be. The polished, cocky version of himself was gone. His face was scruffy, worn, like he'd wandered across the world to find me. In his hand, he clutched the velvet red ring box I'd designed long ago. The box was stained and dusty, but he held it out proudly like some sort of prize. Zoe, stop punishing me. I give up, okay? Leave Romeo. Come back to me. Look! I found the ring you designed. We can get married as soon as we go back. I've kicked Laura out. These past few days, I've really... He struggled to finish that sentence, like the words physically hurt. Missed you. Come back with me. You won't need to work ever again. Be my wife, just like you always wanted. I can give you everything you ever dreamed of. Didn't you want to marry me? Wasn't that what you waited 10 years for? Come with me. The words had barely left his mouth when Romeo shot forward before I could react. To most people, Romeo had always seemed like a refined gentleman, distant, sharp-tongued, but still polite. Seeing him lose it and throw punches in public? That was a first for everyone. He tackled Bruno to the ground and beat the hell out of him. The insults flying from his mouth were so filthy that even the priest, who barely understood the language, was crossing himself in horror. Bruno finally snapped and fought back. The two of them were fully brawling now. Bruno's cursing was no better. Every insult was a low blow accusing Romeo of stealing his woman. When he suddenly lunged like he wanted to kill Romeo, I stepped forward. I stood in front of Romeo and said coldly, "Try touching my husband, see what happens. If you lay a finger on him, my baby and I will not let you off." Romeo was both stunned and ecstatic. He rushed over and shielded me instinctively. Bruno froze. You're pregnant?" I slapped away his trembling hand that pointed at me. 10 years. I waited to marry you for 10 years. 3 years, then another 3. Always waiting. And you never changed. You made me a joke. I'm 28 now. Bruno. Not that naive 18-year-old girl anymore. I choose to stop loving you. And I have the right to choose happiness for myself. Bruno. I made it very clear the day I broke up with you. I don't want anything to do with you ever again. Bruno shook his head in disbelief. He shoved the ring box in my face. You're lying. After 10 years, you suddenly stop loving me? Who the hell believes that? 10 years, I could have trained a damn dog to be loyal. And you just run off and marry someone else? At that moment, I took Romeo's hand in mine. Hey. Then let me tell you something. When I was 18, it took me one single break between classes to fall for you. For that one fleeting moment of heart-thumping excitement. I invested 10 years in you. Chapter 11. And now, at 28, it took me 2 months to fall for Romeo. And I can say with full certainty, for that 2-month rush of emotion, I'm ready to invest for the next 50 years. I don't love you anymore. And I've let go of everything we ever had. Our youth together? I'll just consider it as something I fed to the dogs. Now go. Don't ever show up in my life again. I raised my bouquet and hurled it with all my strength. Then I turned around and shouted toward the priest on stage. I don't even remember how Bruno left the venue that day. All I know is, when I finally came back to my senses, the only thing left on the floor was that faded red velvet ring box. The past was dark and unrecoverable, but the road ahead was full of light. Romeo understood this well. He nodded, smiling with eyes full of emotion. Then he took my hand, the one wearing the ring he designed, and placed a reverent kiss on it. From the time I was 18 until now, you've always been my favorite. I raised a brow at him, teasing. Romeo grinned wide. Well, now I have a competitor. The little one in your belly. He laughed brightly, then asked, so, does that mean we're finally close to reaching my ultimate goal, you falling in love with me? I leaned in and kissed him on the lips. Maybe, after all, I am planning to invest 50 years in you.